The relationship between Darth Maul and Mother Talzin is as enigmatic as it is deeply emotional. Talzin doesn't just lose her son to the Dark Lord of the Sith, but her entire village. Maul's life isn't just decided by the Sith who abducted him, but the second chance at life he's provided by Mother Talzin. To start at the beginning, Maul and his brothers, Farrell and Savage, are the biological children of the Great Mother, Talzin. This is, at first, a contradiction to the EU canon. Depending on which lore you prefer, Maul can either be the biological child of Talzin or the child of a Night Sister named Sinya. The quick rundown of the EU lore, which comes directly from the Darth Plagueis novel, is that Kinya handed the infant Maul off to Palpatine willingly. She handed her child over to the Sith Lord, who was at the time the Naboo ambassador Palpatine, in hopes that Maul might have a better life. The other brother became Savage Oprez. Additionally, it's implied that Maul's life was in danger from Mother Talzin. While it's not greatly expanded upon in the novel, it's clear that before the Clone Wars were released, Talzin saw Maul and his potential as a threat. Eventually, even in the EU timeline, she helps Savage locate and save him. In the main canon though, which will be the rest of this video, Maul, Farrell, and Savage are all the biological children of Talzin. The father is unknown, but being that Dathomir is a matriarchal society, he was likely killed off after Maul was conceived. Instead of a scenario where a Night Sister basically pawned Maul off onto a Sith apprentice to Plagueis, we got a much more grim scenario. Mother Talzin wasn't the leader of the Night Sisters at Maul's birth. She was just one of the sisters of a smaller coven. It wasn't until the death of a sister named Zalem that she rose to power and united the covens into one Night Sister sect. Now, there is a case of Talzin pawning off a child of the Force, but that wasn't Maul. Instead, Asajj Ventress, who was born of a different sister from their clan, was surrendered to a pirate named Halstead. It was something Talzin did with reluctance, but it was also for the protection of her coven, something we see a lot of throughout her life. Because of her great power in the Force and prowess with Dathomiri magic, Talzin attracted the attention of a young Sith apprentice, one who not only hoped to learn some of her secrets, but share his own. Darth Sidious was the very man who found Talzin, even considering her to become an apprentice of his own. But as the Dark Lord did throughout his entire life, his alliances and intermingling always came at a cost to those willing to meet him on equal footing. After sharing their secrets, Sidious stole Maul from his mother. In 40 BBY, Maul was only 14 years old, taken from his home and made a Sith assassin. This is where we get our first real indication of care from Talzin. While the Night Sisters were reluctant to use phrases like love, it's fair to assume that Talzin was either furious because of the betrayal, or that she loved her son based on her reaction, which was fury. She resolved that she would take her revenge against the Sith if it was the last thing she did. What makes the relationship complicated is how she knew about Obi-Wan's defeat of Maul, but not where her son disappeared to. Of course, she still loathed Sidious for abandoning her child wherever he fell on Naboo, but it didn't mean that she left Dathomir to go and find him. It's kind of the predicament that always seems to force her hand. She cared far more about the Coven than she did for Maul, though it is also fair to say that Talzin didn't even learn of Maul's location until the Clone Wars. But there's also a contradiction to that too. Perhaps she didn't want to look for Maul because she knew he was alive and she knew he was safe for a future plan of hers that she hadn't conceived yet. Her resentment towards the Sith might have been real, but Talzin also never went out of her way to try and find Maul. While everything leading up to his abduction depicts a semi-loving and semi-nurturing figure in Maul's life, after he was taken away, it's quite the contrary. And this type of bond really follows the two of them throughout the rest of Talzin's life, because on the flip side of Talzin's own abandonment of Maul is his attempt to reach out and find her. Shortly after his defeat to Obi-Wan, he found himself on Lothal Minor, which was one of many massive junkyard systems in the galaxy. Maul managed to lure a scavenger ship to the system. When they arrived, he tried to take control over the vessel. During this confrontation with the ship's crew, he expressed a desire to get back to his mother, Mother Talzin, but the crew repelled him. It sent Maul into a madness, which is how he's found by Savage during the Clone War. This parallel between characters is honestly what makes their relationship so interesting. Maul always clings to someone. He's always in need of a person to be around. It's why he latched on to Ezra Bridger so hard in Star Wars Rebels. He's still a villain, but under all of that is this very complex character driven by isolation. He wanted to return to Dathomir to find Mother Talzin, but she never even left the system to search for him. And yet, Talzin's own motivations are sometimes hard to decipher. Is she acting in service of her clan, for her sons, or to finally get revenge against the Sith above all else? As mentioned and as known, his brother, Savage, after killing Farrell, returned to Dathomir after Grievous destroyed the village. His journey carried him to Stobar and then the Lothal Miner where he found Maul. While Talzin had no problem exerting a great deal of her own energy to help restore Maul's mind and body, she also might have protected her coven and herself had she sent for Maul within the 10 years since his defeat. Because her coven was destroyed by the time Maul returned home, she couldn't rely on their power to help her resurrect him. Without a doubt, it's clear that she intentionally brought the brothers together because they could be strong enough to defeat the Sith, but without a physical body herself inside of their own cave, she was stuck inside a spirit realm of sorts, while her son's own quest for revenge did not go after the Sith Lord, rather Kenobi. Respectively, mother and sons would lose their own contests against very powerful rivals in the Force. Master Windu, with the help of Jar Jar, would stop Mother Talzin from properly utilizing the living Force to rejuvenate herself. On the other hand, Sidious would kill Savage and abduct Maul again to torture him with the help of Dooku, directly leading to their final interaction. Following a planned escape that Sidious predicted, a final engagement between the Sith and the Dathomiri was set into action. Maul and Grievous fought, while Talzin, who possessed Count Dooku, engaged Sidious. After trying to lure Dooku to their side, Talzin was forced to possess him. In the end though, when it became clear that they were going to lose, once Sidious shocked Talzin from Dooku's body, she gave Maul a final chance at life. She provided him the avenue to escape and continue to fight elsewhere, before she was finally killed by General Grievous, who impaled her with his lightsabers. Maul continued far beyond her death, living past the Clone Wars and late into the Imperial era, before dying at Obi-Wan's hands. Darth Maul and Mother Talzin's relationship is fascinating because it's very convoluted, despite the straight line told through the story. Clearly Talzin is motivated by both revenge and also care, not just for her sons but for her coven, and yet the one who managed to outplay them both was always Sidious. He was the one that was always a step ahead of them. Even when Talzin foretold Palpatine's interest in another apprentice to Dooku, it was still to Darth Sidious that Dooku clung to in their final battle. While I think it's unfair to say that Mother Talzin never loved Maul, her actions also display someone that has one of two motivations, similar to Maul himself. Talzin certainly wants revenge. It's characterized throughout her entire life story, from the moment Sidious betrays her by stealing Maul. But she also wants power. Most of her resurrection attempts, which lead to her confronting either a Jedi Master in Mace Windu or the Sith Lord, are grasps for greater power. Ironically, the very greater power that Sidious in both Legends and canon would master, which is resurrection. It's also Sidious who deems Maul as an unworthy opponent after this engagement, not seeing him as a true threat to his power like Talzin was. And it's kind of funny in a way because so much of their own efforts would have been resolved if they worked together in unison as mother and son. Maul's defeat at the hands of Obi-Wan could have changed everything for the Night Sisters if Talzin went out after him. At that point, it was only Sidious and Tyrannus, allowing one of the most powerful beings in the galaxy and her sons the chance to kill the Sith. It wouldn't be right to just blame Talzin for not discovering Maul, but their individual choices on who to take revenge against is what led to their destruction in the end. Even with all the powerful figures who moved through Dathomir, they were all focused on different opponents. Talzin after Sidious, then Dooku. Maul for Kenobi, and Ventress wanted to kill Tyrannus, with Savage following in her desires. All four of them, plus Farrell, if we include him too, would have had a chance at taking on Sidious, and would have had little problem defeating Tyrannus together. It's perhaps the most tragic thing about Talzin and Maul's relationship specifically. At every opportunity to stop the Sith, Their individual focuses pulled them away from success, and their motivations, truthfully, aren't all that different either. Sidious was always going to target Dathomir. Talzin was too great a threat for him to forever leave unchallenged. But Maul and Talzin, from his resurrection, were always looking the opposite way. Because of course Maul had his grievances with Sidious, but they also paled in comparison to the agony caused by his defeat to Obi-Wan. So, does that mean Mother Talzin loves Maul? After everything we've discussed, can we actually say she does? Is it also fair to ask that same question of Maul, knowing how quickly he turned his focus on the wrong enemies after his resurrection? I think for both characters, they do both love each other to some capacity. Maybe not like an Anakin loves Luke and Leia kind of way, but similar? Because here's something that I find actually ties Mother Talzin and Anakin Skywalker together as parents. Their final acts in life. Talzin does protect Maul by giving him the opportunity to survive, but it's also very true that she is trying to exact her revenge against the Sith in that same action. Vader's act against the Emperor in the Death Star is purely to save Luke from death. This contrast is what best defines the relationship for mother and son. It's like Talzin's relationship with everyone she comes across throughout the Clone Wars. She's using them to get a step ahead, just like Maul is. Ventress is used to get at Dooku, which of course would impact the man who betrayed her, Sidious. Talzin doesn't reach out to Ventress, Merrin, or Elsbeth after the destruction of their clan. Instead, we find her on Zardosa Styx with a group of cultists trying to resurrect herself to restore her to her power. And it is fair, Mother Talzin is easily one of the most powerful characters we've been introduced to in Star Wars, certainly one of the most capable of the Clone War. Maul is no different. He follows in the exact same footsteps after he comes back from defeat. He uses the Death Watch, he uses the criminal syndicates, and at the end, like his mother, he fails all the same. Their relationship as mother and son highlights more of a means to an end than a pure love, as the aforementioned one shared between Vader and his son. It's honestly a perfect contrast from a story perspective. Luke and Vader, at the end, are there to save the other from the dark side, but Maul and Talzin in their own respective ways are looking for different revenge, and a different means of attaining power. Both were incredibly talented individuals, yet their relationship is very indicative of the dark side of the Force. Whether they were intended to be the flawed mirrors to Luke and his father, I'm not sure, I wasn't in the writing room. But it does seem very apparent that they are the mirrors to Luke and Vader that failed. Two individuals that could have very easily changed the course of galactic history if they united their powers, rather than disperse them for their own good and their own failure. Maul's conquest of Mandalore changed just as much as Talzin's rituals on Zardosa Styx did, in that they changed nothing, because Sidious was always so many steps ahead of them because they were divided. Maul and Talzin's relationship is complicated because it's brilliantly flawed. Love is present, but love does not supersede the intentions of each individual. They'd rather use the other or someone else without abandoning them to get their revenge or the power they seek. I think in that, it makes Maul's Sisyphus arc all the more rewarding to watch, and Talzin's defeat all the more tragic. So I hope you all enjoyed this first actual lore video on this channel. I've got tons coming out, and you better believe it, yes, I've got what if ideas literally from making this. So, we're gonna see how it goes with this. I'm kind of just playing around with this concept right now. I definitely have some other Maul ideas for lore coming out during the run of the show, but I also got some really cool other lore videos that are up on screen right now. Otherwise, I love you all, spread the love, and I'll see you guys in the next video.